Welcome to the Alliance Ambassador Web Training. I'm Katie Larson, the Education Manager at the Alliance for the Great Lakes, and I'm joined by my colleague, Olivia.
Hey everyone, I'm Olivia Rita, and I am the Volunteer Engagement Associate at Alliance for the Great Lakes.
Over the next half hour, we will share updates on the Alliance's work and how ambassadors can share info with others, including changes to our work and the ambassador program during the COVID-19 crisis. At the end of this webinar, we will share a link to an online survey where you can share what you learned from this webinar, what action steps you will take as an ambassador, and what questions you still have. I'll turn it over to Olivia to talk about the Alliance Ambassador Program.
First, we'll talk a little bit about the start of the Ambassador Program and the need that we have for it at the Alliance. We started the Ambassador Program because we need help. The Great Lakes are huge, and the Chicago metro area is large as well, but our staff of 25 is not that big. So in order for us to do even more and for the Alliance's messaging and efforts to protect the Great Lakes to reach more people, it is super helpful for us to have this group of passionate individuals that can spread our impact and also add their own personal experience to it. So now we'll go over what exactly an Alliance Ambassador is and what the role looks like within the Alliance. A simple way to put it is that Alliance Ambassadors are a team of devoted, passionate, and informed volunteers that represent the Alliance. We turn down opportunities here in Chicago and around the Great Lakes region every year due to not having someone available to attend. And we know there are even more opportunities that we don't know about, and we are hoping you all will be able to help us identify some of these opportunities. So your involvement is key to the Alliance, and we really appreciate having you as part of the team. In the meantime, Alliance Ambassadors will be trained to speak about the Great Lakes and issues facing them at community events, give presentations on behalf of the Alliance, and represent the Alliance at cool events like tabling events, conferences, shopping events, give speaking events to school groups, church groups, and speaking at other Alliance events like Adopt a Beach events. However, ambassador involvement will look a bit different right now during the COVID-19 pandemic, as all in-person ambassador events are currently on hold. This includes events the Alliance identifies and ones in your own network. We still want to move Alliance ambassadors and the community members you reach to action. So through the interactions we will help train you to have, we hope that you and others will be moved to do various things, such as take part in online action alerts. These go to decision makers, and/or our policy team also shares these with decision makers. These action alerts are located at the Great Lakes Action Alert Center on our website, greatlakes.org, under the Get Involved section. And they currently include actions like our Plastic Free Great Lakes Pledge and a way to reach out to Congress to support and fund our federal priorities that help protect the Great Lakes. We also hope you and others will be moved to share information within your own networks, your family, friends, coworkers, church groups, and other groups that you are involved with, and also to share your passion for the lakes with others in person and also through social media. In addition to being able to speak with public officials and decision makers about Great Lakes issues. Just to give you an idea of what a typical ambassador season looks like, we'll go over last year's season a bit. So last year, we had 80 ambassadors that attended online or in-person trainings, and these trainings included intro trainings like the one you're attending now, and also topical deep dive trainings about issues like plastic pollution and aquatic invasive species. We will be having some deep dive trainings this year, and we will be sure to keep you up to date when these will be occurring. Last season, we also had 36 ambassadors representing the Alliance at 33 events taking place in all different areas. 1,782 people were reached through these events. We're able to find this out after ambassadors report to us different metrics from these events. So these are people that maybe attended an event or were reached through tabling events, stuff like that. 381 people signed up to receive Alliance emails, and this helps to grow our support. A lot of these people signing up for our emails then become volunteers or are able to donate to the Alliance or take part in our action alerts. So it really helps to widen our spread in our message. Another way ambassadors volunteer with us is through our Adopt a Beach program, which for those who don't know is our beach cleanup program that takes place all throughout the Great Lakes. Ambassadors can sign up to give a short intro about the Alliance and relevant topics like plastic pollution and/or help at these cleanups with logistics and setting up and things like that. Especially it's helpful during busy times, such as spring kickoff, which typically happens during April, looking a little bit different this year, and also during September Adopt a Beach, which coincides with International Coastal Cleanup in September. To give you an idea of last year's season, we had over 1,000 Adopt a Beach cleanups that happened in 2019. And like I said, these are taking place all over, all 5 Great Lakes, and in all 8 Great Lakes states. And we had some ambassadors speak at some of these Adopt a Beach cleanups. A lot of those were during September Adopt a Beach. Unfortunately, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, Adopt a Beach cleanups have been suspended until early May. We are monitoring the situation closely, and we will definitely keep you updated on our timeline and let you know when these cleanups are resuming and when this can, again, be an opportunity for our ambassadors.
Thanks, Olivia. Now I'll talk a bit about the Alliance for the Great Lakes and our work. The Great Lakes define a way of life. Family, friends, and businesses depend on clean water, but the Great Lakes face serious threats. During the deepening COVID-19 crisis, it's only reinforced the inseparable connection between water and public health. We commend the cities and other government entities that are taking action to halt water shutoffs and restore residential water service during this crisis, including Cleveland, Detroit, Toledo, and Akron, as well as many others around the Great Lakes region. We urge states to use their power, as was done in Ohio and Wisconsin and other states, to direct water utilities under their jurisdiction to halt shutoffs and restore water services. This crisis is going to take a commitment from all levels of government to ensure that everyone has access to the clean water they need, and the Alliance is ready to work with any state or local officials that are looking for guidance in this critical area. We also encourage you to support the many local environmental and civic organizations that are working directly in our Great Lakes communities to ensure all residents have access to safe, clean water. Each year, the Alliance for the Great Lakes engages and empowers tens of thousands of people to advocate, give back, and take action to protect the Great Lakes. We're supporting nearly 20,000 volunteers in all 8 Great Lakes states through the Alliance Ambassador Program, as well as Adopt a Beach program. As I said before, I'm the education manager at the Alliance for the Great Lakes, and starting next Monday, April 6th at 9:30 a.m., we'll be launching a homeschool program to connect students to their community and their environment through videos, activities, and social media challenges. So tune in or visit our blog or website or social media every Monday for the next several weeks. The Alliance for the Great Lakes is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. That means that we are tax exempt. Any contributions are tax deductible. We have limited lobbying activities, and we can't support or oppose a political party or candidate for public office. So we are nonpartisan. That is a value of the Alliance for the Great Lakes. As a nonpartisan organization, we don't favor any one party over the other. Instead, we focus on what helps or harms the Great Lakes, and we build our advocacy campaigns on those factors alone. We work with elected officials from all political parties to make sure the Great Lakes are protected.
Okay, so now we'll talk a bit about the 2020 federal priorities. The Alliance releases federal priorities each year. The annual priorities outline our federal policy agenda and identify the next steps Congress should take this session to protect the lakes. These priorities can be found on our website, greatlakes.org, where you're able to download the full PDF to read them in detail. But we will give an overview today. You can also visit our Action Center, as I mentioned earlier, to tell Congress to protect the Great Lakes by supporting and funding the priorities outlined in our 2020 Great Lakes Policy Agenda, linked on this slide. The Alliance has also had a physical presence in DC to help push for these priorities. On March 4th and 5th, more than 100 Great Lakes advocates from across the region convened in Washington, DC for the 15th annual Healing Our Waters Coalition Great Lakes Day. And we had 5 Alliance staff that were in attendance advocating for the Great Lakes. So now getting into our federal priorities of this year. One huge focus of the Alliance is preventing invasive Asian carp from reaching the Great Lakes. Asian carp are voracious filter feeders, eating between 20 to 40% of their body weight in a day, so they can have serious impacts on food chains. They also spawn multiple times per year, so populations are growing and spreading very quickly, and once again, having a big impact on the ecosystem. So how does this relate to the Great Lakes region? The man-made Chicago Canal connects the Mississippi River to the Great Lakes. It allows invasive species like Asian carp to move between the Great Lakes and the Mississippi River Basin. Currently, the last line of defense is an electric barrier just south of Chicago on the Des Plaines River, which, according to researchers, is not 100% effective at deterring fish. In 2017, a live adult Asian carp was found just 9 miles from Lake Michigan in the Chicago waterways. So as you can see, this is definitely an issue that we are thinking about. In May of last year, the Corps released its chief's report to Congress recommending a combination of structural and non-structural measures at Brandon Road Lock, Joliet, in Joliet, which is a critical stopping point for invasive Asian carp about 50 miles downstream of Chicago to stop Asian carp. This would include a concrete-lined engineered channel, a flushing lock, an acoustic fish deterrent, another electric barrier, and an air bubble curtain. U.S. Army Corps of Engineers needs to fund pre-construction, engineering, and design for this to be implemented, and the Alliance is urging Congress to authorize construction of the Brandon Road project. Another priority is to ensure the Great Lakes are protected from other aquatic invasive species, not just Asian carp. Many of these other species make their way to the Great Lakes via untreated ballast water. Ballast water is taken in, as you can see in these images, in other waterways, and they're also taking in invasive species and then releasing them into the Great Lakes when that ballast water is then released in the Great Lakes water. Species that have entered the Great Lakes through ballast water include the Eurasian ruff, round goby, spiny water flea, and zebra and quagga mussels. Since the opening of the St. Lawrence Seaway in 1959, 55% of the invasive species, including zebra mussels and round gobies found in the Great Lakes, were brought here in untreated ballast water. The Great Lakes are also pathways for aquatic invasive species spread throughout the nation. Zebra and quagga mussels were introduced into the Great Lakes first and then spread across the continental divide, causing major damage to aquatic ecosystems. Cleaning up ship ballast tanks is the most effective way to prevent new aquatic invasive species from entering the Great Lakes. The Alliance has led the regional campaign to pressure federal regulatory agencies and Congress to regulate ship ballast tanks. The Alliance has also supported Great Lakes states in their efforts to regulate ship discharges in their ports. The Alliance is also advocating to reduce agricultural pollution, preventing algal blooms and dead zones. An area that suffers a lot from algal blooms is Western Lake Erie, which suffers from severe algal blooms every summer. Sometimes the blooms become toxic for fish, wildlife, and people, and they also affect ecotourism and recreation in these areas. This is especially concerning because Lake Erie provides drinking water for more than 11 million people in the US and Canada. The harmful algal blooms put this drinking water source at risk. We saw this happen in August of 2014 when the city of Toledo was without safe drinking water for nearly 3 days because of toxic algae in its water supply. These algal blooms are caused by runoff nutrient pollution from agricultural lands and from nutrients from sources like sewage treatment plants. Rainfall can wash these excess nutrients, including nitrogen and phosphorus, into streams, rivers, and eventually the Great Lakes. These nutrients allow the algae to grow faster than ecosystems can handle. However, this kind of pollution is preventable. Scientists have shown that reducing agricultural runoff pollution will significantly improve the health of the lake for fish, wildlife, and people. Algal blooms can also cause dead zones in several of the Great Lakes. Dead zones are areas under the surface of the water that are so low in oxygen that they can't support life. They occur because the decaying process for algae sucks up valuable oxygen that are needed by fish and other wildlife. So how are we addressing this problem? The Alliance has taken a leadership role in raising awareness about nutrient pollution and urging regional leaders to commit to taking action and solving the problem. We are pushing for new mandatory regulations to reduce the amount of runoff pollution allowed to flow into Lake Erie. We're also working with farmers and other local leaders to reduce nutrient pollution at the source to keep it from flowing into the Great Lakes. States are also taking action. One example would be how Ohio Governor Mike DeWine last year announced his administration's implementation plan for the $172 million H2 Ohio Fund to invest in long-term solutions to prevent harmful algal blooms in Western Lake Erie and promote clean water throughout Ohio. Another federal priority is improving drinking water infrastructure, ensuring access to safe, affordable drinking water in Great Lakes communities. The Great Lakes provide drinking water for over 40 million Americans and Canadians, so it is super important that we protect this resource. But that drinking water is at risk, as we have seen with the harmful algal blooms that we just discussed, and also due to other issues like tiny microplastics, which have been found in drinking water. Unfortunately, many communities that sit on the shores of the Great Lakes struggle with unsafe tap water due to outdated infrastructure. For example, many communities experience lead contamination in drinking water due to aging infrastructure. The Alliance is pushing Congress to increase investments in better water infrastructure to help address these problems. The Alliance is also prioritizing investing in stronger, more resilient communities by updating outdated and failing wastewater infrastructure. Our nation's drinking water system and aging wastewater systems are in need of investments to update stormwater and wastewater infrastructure, which was given a grade of D+ in 2017. We support increases to the Clean Water State Revolving Fund to provide communities, especially those that are financially distressed, with funding for infrastructure improvements. Another important focus of the Alliance is reauthorizing the Great Lakes Restoration Initiative and providing at least $350 million in FY21. This initiative supports efforts to clean up toxic pollution, restore fish and wildlife habitat, combat invasive species like Asian carp, and prevent polluted runoff from farms and cities that, as we have seen, can cause algal blooms. It passed in the House in 2019, and Congress should pass the Great Lakes Restoration Initiative Act of 2019. Another federal priority is upholding existing environmental laws and restoring the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency's enforcement ability. The U.S. EPA plays a critical federal role in safeguarding the Great Lakes, protecting our public health, and keeping our water safe and clean. Rollbacks of key federal environmental regulations, together with staff cuts, have reduced the U.S. EPA's ability to protect the environment and people's health, and has undermined scientific research and government decisions and reduced U.S. EPA's capacity to coordinate important regional projects. The Alliance is urging Congress to do everything within its power, including oversight hearings, to ensure that bedrock environmental laws that safeguard the environment and human health are upheld, and to restore U.S. EPA Region 5's funding and staff capacity to the levels necessary to fulfill its duties to protect water for humans and wildlife. Finally, the Alliance is prioritizing that Congress fund federal agencies and programs that are critical to protecting and restoring the Great Lakes. Along with the U.S. EPA, the Clean Water Act, and the Great Lakes Restoration Initiative, there are many federal agencies and programs that are vital to the protection of the Great Lakes. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, U.S. Geological Society, and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers administer important Great Lakes programs. The Alliance urges Congress to fund the work of these agencies individually and collectively in order to protect and restore the Great Lakes. So that's an overview of our federal priorities for this year. As I said, feel free to access more detail on each of these priorities on our website, where you can find a full PDF with more details on each of these priorities.
Thanks, Olivia. As an Alliance ambassador, we're looking to you to share information with others. One of the ways that we could do this, or that ambassadors can do this, is through tabling and speaking events. But as I said, those are on hold until further notice. These different events can be identified by the Alliance or by ambassadors who know about opportunities in their communities and networks. We look to ambassadors to identify events and also to share information informally with others. We provide presentations, presenter notes, tabling toolkits, materials, a t-shirt, and we'll talk with you one-on-one to prep you for any formal events. But we also share a lot of information on our social media and our website. We host webinars. We have our online action alerts that Olivia talked about. So we're looking for you to share information formally and informally. For sharing information informally, here are our social media handles, as well as the website for our action alerts. Each month, we send out an Alliance Ambassador email, and we include a tracking form, a short survey, where you can let us know how you shared information with others in the past month, whether that is informal or formal. When you do have a conversation or go to a tabling or speaking event, here are some tips. We want you to feel confident. We want you to be happy and passionate about the Great Lakes like we know you are. Don't be afraid to approach people. Using prompts and props are really helpful for engaging people. But always make the conversation your own. Add in some personal touches, flow with the conversation, tell them a story because your story is compelling. So always have fun, share your passion, and thank people for their time.
Thanks, Katie. So we would just like to say thank you all so much for listening. We are really excited to have you as an Alliance Ambassador and really look forward to your involvement in our program. If you are able, we would really appreciate if you would be able to fill out this brief survey that we have linked on this slide to provide some feedback from this training and let us know how you plan to use this information. Also, please don't hesitate to reach out to us if you have any questions or comments or anything for any reason at all. Feel free to reach out. Our emails are both listed in this presentation. So thank you so much again for tuning in.
Thanks, everyone. Talk to you later.